Hello, Monetization Nation. I'm Nathan Gwilliam, your host, and today I'm joined by Bryan Clayton. Bryan is the CEO and co-founder of GreenPal, which is an online marketplace that connects homeowners with local lawn care professionals. Before starting GreenPal, Bryan founded Peachtree, one of the largest landscaping companies in the state of Tennessee, growing it to more than $10 million a year in annual revenue. In today's episode, we're going to discuss Bryan's entrepreneurial journey and 5 tips he has for creating a technology business. We're also going to cover the following key takeaways. Number 1, authenticity can be a huge competitive advantage. Number 2, we should learn the necessary skills required to run our business or build our technology. Number 3, we should focus on the little things and then let the little things compound to become big things. Number 4, we should start with a core customer problem and build everything else in our business around it. Number 5, we can learn from our competitors. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today, Bryan.
Nathan, thanks for having me on. Great to be here. And you've inspired me by plowing through with a case of bronchitis. I'd probably be in bed if I were you.
Yeah, I know I sound kind of funny. So can you start off by sharing with us something that you are super passionate about?
Super passionate about creating products from scratch that people use and people get a little bit of value out of. That has been one of the coolest things I've ever done with my life. It's been probably the thing that's lent the most meaning and purpose to my life, particularly the project I'm working on now, GreenPal, which is like the Uber for lawn mowing. We have something around 25,000 lawn care services that use the app to run their lawn care business. And so they use our app to run their whole livelihood, I guess you could say. It helps them make material income and they get real value out of it. A few 100,000 homeowners use it too to get this chore done, but where we really have impact is with small business owners that use it. So that's been something that's lended my life purpose. It's lended my life a lot of joy, and it's something I'm passionate about. It's creating the platform that helps people make a living and make more money.
I love it. And that's a great idea to build one of those share or gig economy marketplaces for lawn care. If there's someone on the show who's interested, or someone listening to the show who's interested in creating a gig or share economy marketplace within a different niche, what advice can you give them about building that type of a business? Did you build your technology from scratch? Did you license technology? How did you deal with the technology side?
Yeah, I think that like authenticity can be a competitive advantage. And so for me, my first business was a landscaping company. I mowed grass in high school, mowed grass all through college. Over a 15-year period of time, built this little lawn mowing business to like 150 people, $10 million a year in revenue. In 2013, sold that company. And so 15 years I spent in one industry. I kind of saw it from every angle you could see it from. And so when I sold the business, I got bored and I retired. I was able to retire, didn't have to work anymore, which is nice, but I got bored. And I thought, well, what am I going to do now? Well, I see what Uber and Airbnb and Lyft are doing. Maybe I can build an app that can make the whole thing run smoother and faster and quicker and cheaper for everybody. And so I set out to do that. And the only thing I had going for me was that I had all of the experience with how the industry worked. I knew all of the pain points that needed to be solved with technology. And it's probably one of the main reasons why we were able to kind of get through the early years, which were the hardest, because I kind of had that context. And so I see a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of new startups trying to innovate in spaces that they don't have any sort of authenticity. Maybe they want to start a home cleaning service or an app that is like the Uber for home cleaning, but they've never cleaned a home in their life. Or maybe they want to start a good gig economy that connects people with laundry services, and they've never ran a dry cleaning service. And so it's really hard to innovate and like bring online the gig economy kind of analog if you've never actually done it. So I think no matter what you are doing, authenticity can be a competitive advantage, and it certainly has been for us. And but the technology execution of it is hard too, but the problem is if you don't have the perspective and you don't have the context, then you build all the wrong stuff. You build the wrong technology. And so at least we had that going for us, but the first 3-4 years were really hard. We had to had to learn how to build software, had to teach ourselves how to code, had to teach ourselves how to design software and market software. And that was really, really, really challenging.
So did you build it from scratch, or did you use existing technology?
So the first mistake we made, this is 2014. None of us, my two co-founders and I, did not know how to code, and so we thought, well, all we need to do is just outsource this to a development shop. We can pay them to build it, and then we'll market it, and we'll be off and going. And this is a common mistake most newbies make, and we certainly made it. So we met with these folks and took like 9 months and spent like $150,000 building what we thought GreenPal should be. And they finally got it done, and we released it, and it was a total failure. It didn't have the features it needed. It was buggy. It barely worked. And a lot of it was our fault because we really didn't even know what the app should be. You know, we hadn't talked to any customers. We didn't know what we should be building. And the other thing was like, looking back on it, the reason why it was such a failure and it was really stupid to try to do it that way was like, it'd be like starting a restaurant, maybe like a 5-star restaurant, and not having a chef, and not having any kind of proprietary recipes. And you just think that this restaurant is just going to succeed because you have a storefront maybe and some people up front, maybe some servers, great bartender, but no chef and no recipes. That's what starting a tech company with no developers, no coding experience, no like engineering capabilities at the core competency of the business. That's about what it's like. And so we wasted that money, wasted 8-9 months. And we came to the realization that if we were going to be in the tech business, we were going to have to learn how to build software. And so I took every online course you could take on front-end engineering, and my co-founder went to a boot camp. It was a 9-month boot camp where he went nights and weekends taking classes on how to build server-side development and worked on GreenPal during the day. So it was really tough, but it was kind of like table stakes. It was kind of like the ticket price to the game. We had to learn how to do the stuff that we were trying to do. The only thing that we really got out of the first version that we paid the development shop to build was that we at least hustled up like 100 people to use it. And a lot of them were friends and family, and a lot of them were acquaintances. And we passed out a lot of flyers all over Nashville, Tennessee, where we live. And we hustled up 100, maybe 200 people to try it out. And we met with as many of those people that would meet with us. And they would tell us everywhere we sucked. They would tell us everywhere the product stunk, which was great. We needed that feedback to build into the next version. But there was one thing we never saw was they never said, I don't need this. Or we never saw like a meh, It was like they were disappointed and upset that the app didn't deliver on the promise for push a button, get the grass cut. And for us, that was validation to keep going, and that it was worth, investing in ourselves to develop the skills we needed to play in this game.
I love it. I love that you realize the value of those first 100 beta customers, because what you got from that was the feedback. You got the information you needed to build version 2 of your product that was able to be successful.
Yeah, that's right. And it wasn't like we even knew to do that. As simple as that sounds, most entrepreneurs and startups are reticent to go solicit that feedback because it's painful and it hurts. But we were reading every book we could get our hands on, and a couple books we read was The Lean Startup by Eric Ries, and then the predecessor to Eric Ries is Steve Blank, and he wrote a book called The Startup Owner's Manual. And what those books talk about is literally get out of the building, get away from the laptop, get out of the office, and go talk to the dozen people who are using your crappy product, and let them just tell you everything that stinks about it, or why they don't use it anymore, or what they wish it would do, or how they normally get this thing done that you're trying to solve. That was one thing. That was one key insight we got was people would say, well, we would ask them, well, where do you normally find a lawn care service? And they would say, well, I'd ask for friends for recommendations. And then I'd eventually go to Google out of desperation and type lawn mowing service nearby me. And so that not only did we learn about how the product needed to be improved, but we learned about how to market it, how we could get more customers, not have to pass out flyers anymore. So letting that early feedback guide you and be kind of like your free R&D almost is really critical when you're inventing something brand new from scratch. You should really make it really easy for people to reach you. Like your cell phone number should be on your transactional emails. You should personally handle all of the phone calls and chat support and email support, because you need that feedback to even know what you're supposed to be doing, if you're on the right track or not.
I agree. That's so critical. Many businesses fail trying to launch a product when they haven't gotten any customer feedback on that product through the process. That's a almost guaranteed recipe for failure. Okay, tell me about the greatest home run you've hit so far in your career.
Well, I've had a lot of doubles, triples.
I don't know, a $10 million business sale is pretty cool.
Yeah, that was a home run. But like, you think home run, you think, and it's like one move. It's like one move on there's no one move on the chessboard that wins the chess game.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
And so selling that business was a 15-year process. And so I guess when we got it done, it felt like a grand slam. So yeah, you could say that was home run or grand slam worthy. With GreenPal, it's been much the same way. It's been what Jim Collins in the book Good to Great calls it, a 30-mile march, where it's just slow and steady. There's no just one big thing. But some home runs that felt good were some particular hires that we've made along the way. Whenever you're building something from scratch, you're doing everything yourself, and then slowly you begin to learn, what these tasks look like and what these roles might look like, and how you can put people in those roles and get them a chance to excel and help drive the company forward. And so some of the home runs that we've made are some good hires. We've hired a really good head of content and Google search. That's really helped us push the company forward. So those always feel good. Some really good features that we've built were home runs. We built an instant book feature where a homeowner comes on and to the platform, and normally they get bids, and then they hire one of those bids, and the contractor comes out and mows it. Well, we spent like 2 years building an instant book feature where we now know through the data that it's $33 to mow your yard, and you can just hire them instantly and without having to wait for quotes. And so that was a big home run for us. It helped, it really moved the needle in terms of activations and overall sales. So a lot of times in entrepreneurship, there's no knockout punch. There's always just these little jabs over and over again that eventually win. And that's how it's been for us, but there have been some home runs here and there.
So when you create a marketplace or a social site, what you've created is to some extent a social site, because you've brought together multiple parties and are making connections between those parties. That's only possible when you kind of have a chicken and the egg problem, where you've got to have a lot of lawn mowing companies there and then you've got to have the people come, and they've got to kind of all come together at the same time. How did you get that going? How did you overcome that chicken and the egg problem? How did you get enough critical mass of users and market and grow your base at the beginning to get it going?
Yeah, it's really hard, because if you build it, they will not come. And it's really challenging for any particularly local based marketplace like ours to get over that cold start problem and to get the critical mass of buyers and sellers at the party, so to speak. And for us, it was just focus on one thing, one city, really particularly one corner of that city, and it's trying to get what they call the atomic unit of the minimum number of buyers and minimum number of sellers. So for Airbnb, they believe that if to have an atomic unit, that you have to have 300 listings with all with ratings to have critical mass. For Uber, they need to have 3 drivers within 10 miles of you. For us, we knew that we needed to get a homeowner 5 quotes back less than 10 minutes. And so that meant that we needed to have around 20 or 30 contractors per zip code that had homeowners signing up. And so the only way we kind of got over that was just to focus on this one city, which was the city we lived in at the time, Nashville, Tennessee, and really just focus on one part of that city, which was the east side of Nashville, which was kind of like the up and coming, maybe I guess you could say working class part of town. And we just focused on getting liquidity and getting the right number of contractors on board, and then marketing and getting the right number of homeowners on board. Because we knew if we could get 100 or 1,000 people using it in that geo, then we could figure out the rest later. And that's what we did. So we cold called all over Craigslist for contractors that were advertising their lawn mowing services because we knew they were hungry. They wanted more business. We pitched them on the idea for using GreenPal to get more customers, and it was free to sign up. Pretty no brainer value proposition for them to get onboarded. And then we went to work on the harder part of the equation, which is the demand side, people who are spending the money. And we've passed out flyers, like I mentioned, and then we figured out a little bit of a content strategy. We figured out, okay, we can rank on Google. We can't rank on Google for lawn mowing Nashville, but we can rank on Google for lawn mowing East Nashville, or yard cutting East Nashville, or yard cutting Brentwood, or yard cutting Hermitage, which are suburbs of Nashville. So it's really, really, really just a bottom-up approach, like distilling it down to the fewest number of inputs, and then just executing on those things, and then getting some sort of momentum, and then funneling that to like kind of move our way up the stack, so to speak, to where we could then like move into other sub-markets of Nashville and then dominate Nashville. And then slowly we, 3 years in, like literally took us 3 years to launch our second market, and which was Atlanta. And then we moved into Florida, and now we're nationwide in the United States, a few 100,000 people using it, and still growing 30-40% every year. And it was very much a bottom up, like just focus on little things, get traction on little things, and then the little things compound and become big things.
What is your best monetization secret or strategy?
Well, you got to solve a problem people want to pay for. That's the first, not necessarily secret. It's an obvious one, but it's one that's often gets overlooked. If people, if they don't have like a hair on fire problem that they're trying to solve, then it's going to be really hard to monetize. And so, for us, the hair on fire problem is the grass is 3 feet tall and nobody will call the homeowner back, and they need somebody to come cut it today. And we just build everything out from that hair on fire problem. So the monetization secret is really just find like the pain, like you stab the knife in their stomach and then twist it. And it's got to hurt that bad, and then build out from there. Don't try to build a company or a business around a meh problem, or a problem that somebody doesn't have pain around. Like Uber solved a real pain point. Gosh, getting a taxi before Uber really sucked. And so you got to be that good. You really got to start there and then build out from there. Because if you don't have that, no amount of growth hacking sprinkled on top of the product will fix it. You got to really start with a pain point, hair on fire problem that people are willing to pay for, and then move outwards from that.
Okay, so what secrets did you learn along the way that helped you to build your business to 8 figures with no outside capital?
One secret I learned was, we didn't raise any money, which is rare for tech companies, because usually like new, fast growing, new products that are tech oriented raise a bunch of money, which when it works out, it's beautiful, but most of the time it doesn't work out. Most of the time it ends in a zero for everybody, the sad reality. And so for us, I didn't really want to take us down that path. I wanted to kind of go slow and low. I knew nobody was going to like pull the rug out from under us. I knew if we just kept focusing on a good customer experience, we'd eventually get there. And so, but we didn't have a bunch of money. And so we had to kind of like, do things scrappy. And I guess one secret that I learned was that you can get like 80-20 the way. Like our product is not Uber good. It's not like Instacart good, but it's pretty damn good. It's probably 80% of the way there. And so, Uber's $100 billion company. Instacart just got valued at $40 billion. These companies have raised billions of dollars, and our product is not as good as theirs, but it's pretty darn good. And so one way we've kind of gotten there is to just draft these big companies in terms of their product design, their approach to building interfaces, their approach to marketing, their approach to things like emails and transactional emails and lifecycle emails and push notifications and SMS notifications, and when they touch their customers at certain points of the journey, and really learn from how they do things and then apply it to what we do. And so one thing that I guess it was probably year 4 or 5 that I did was I signed up for every gig economy app that ever existed. So I drove for Uber. I drove for Lyft. I walked dogs on Rover. and WAG. I delivered groceries on Instacart. I delivered hamburgers on Postmates. Every one of these gig economy apps, I use them as a supplier and as a consumer. And I would do one a month, and I did it for almost 2 years. And then I would take screenshots of every interface, and I would do a complete teardown of how the whole customer experience looked like. And then I would put it into a repository of our kind of knowledge bank, and then I would apply these things to how we were building our product. And so while we didn't have $10 million to hire a world-class product development team, we got 80% or 90% of the way there just by looking at what they were doing and tearing down what they were doing and applying it to lawn care. And that really worked well for us. That was a big, not necessarily a secret, but just something that we did that was a little weird, and it helped us kind of get over that hump.
Yeah, I applaud you for what you did. That is really brilliant. Most entrepreneurs don't have the discipline to do that. Russell Brunson calls it funnel hacking, where you go look at other funnels that other successful entrepreneurs have created that are doing something similar to you, maybe in a different niche, and then you learn from them. You don't copy them, but you use them as a starting point. And I remember when I was in college, my freshman year, I took a songwriting class. The first song they had us write, they had us pick one of our favorite songs. And then they had us model our first song after that favorite song that we had picked. And by the end, the song you created didn't look like the one you started from, but you learned about chord progressions and you learned about song structure and hooks and things like that. You learned from great songs and use that to model yours off of. And you did that same thing. I remember when I got my MBA, they talked about R&D isn't research and development, but it's rip off and design, right? You you learn what everybody else does, and then you design it to work from you. Don't reinvent the wheel. You go find out what everybody else is already doing, and then you figure out how to bring all those pieces together and make it uniquely work for you.
That's right, man. And it's something that can kind of get you over that cold start. It can get you at least on first base, and let the big guys, let the Apples and the Airbnbs and Ubers and Amazons of the world innovate and be at the cutting edge of some of these things, whereas you don't have the resources to do that, and you can kind of fast follow a lot of what they're doing.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that you kind of do need to innovate on and get scrappy and creative around is distribution and marketing and growth, because you can't just copy what everybody else is doing on Facebook ads and succeed, because they're not going to displace them. And so you really kind of have to innovate on how you're going to get more customers and how you're going to do that in a competitive and differentiated way. And so you do have to get creative there. And so maybe that's where you can focus, all of your weight. It certainly has been for us. 67% of what we do is just around distribution and marketing and getting more eyeballs on the product. And that often gets overlooked. Again, if you build it, they will not come. So it doesn't matter how good you are at product design or how good you are at some of these things. If you don't have a growth engine, a growth strategy, the company's not going to take off.
Okay, at the beginning, we promised the audience that you are going to teach us how to win by never giving up. Can you tell us about one or more times where you've won by not giving up?
Certainly has been the case. Every success I've had in business with my first company, 15 years, now my second company, 10 years. It's just it's consistency as a superpower. It's just for me, like GreenPal, the first 3-4 years were really tough. And I think it was year 3 or 4. I mean, we still weren't able to pay ourselves a good salary. We were making hundreds of dollars, and it's living off of ramen noodles, and it was really, really, really challenging. But the thing that worked for me was just a personal psychology thing, that I'm always going to be working on my best idea, no matter what. So by default, non-negotiable, I'm always going to be working on my best idea. And so I guess fortunately, I'm not terribly creative. I've had one good idea in a decade. And so those days that you just don't want to go in the office and put in a 10-hour day, well, you don't have any other alternative. You're going to work on your best idea. And so that's how I got through, and my team got through the first 4 or 5 years, which were really, 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 really hard. Now we've got a great team of 40-something people. We're making money. We're profitable. We got specialists in place in certain roles, and that's a lot of fun. But those early days, it very much feels like pushing on a string, And so if you have your mind made up that no matter what, you're going to be pouring your life's soul into your best idea, then it kind of takes care of a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. How to win by never giving up. So you're basically saying one of your key strategies to win by never giving up is staying focused on your most important thing, not allowing yourself to get distracted by all the different shiny objects and ideas, but disciplining yourself to know your best idea and keeping yourself focused on that.
That's right. Here we are, we're a decade in, and we are still working on how do we make lawn care services faster, cheaper, quicker, more reliable, smoother, more seamless. The same thing we were working on 10 years ago. Now it's better and better and better, but we're not doing a bunch of different things. We're really just like focusing on the one thing. And in Jim Collins' Good to Great, he calls this the hedgehog concept, which is like a hedgehog. All he does is one thing. He rolls up in a little ball and he's got little spikes, and you can't attack him. And like he's just the best at that thing. Like, and so for us, we're the best in the world at ordering a lawn mowing service. And so whatever your idea is, you have to be the best in your market at it. And if you just by default work on that one thing for a decade, you will be successful. And that's how it's played out for us, and a lot of it is managing your own personal psychology. And for me, I've just made a decision, no matter what, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get out of bed. I'm going to work on my best idea, and I'm going to put everything I got into it.
I wonder how much of that personal psychology you're talking about is about properly setting our expectations. I've heard it said that expectations is directly proportional to our happiness, and when our reality is a lot lower than our expectations, we're not happy. When our reality is higher than our expectations, we're much more likely to be happy in our lives. So maybe part of it is going into it when we start these new businesses and we set our expectations, understanding we're going to be eating ramen for 3 or 4 years, right? We understand things are going to be lean, and we're just going to have to start on, focusing on it intensely, and that it's going to take time. I think too often people go in and they think, they're going to launch it in January, and by February they're going to be profitable, and they're setting expectations in a place where they're going to be miserable.
Yeah, it's I like that, and I think another way I've heard it put is that success is results minus expectations. And so it's like that's what success is. It's just when the results outweigh what you expected it to do. And so for me, yeah, that's definitely been the case. And I think for one thing, we see in the tech press, we see in the business media a lot of these overnight successes. And when you really look at them, they never are overnight successes. They really never are. Like the thing that X, Y, and Z company founder did in a year, 2 or 3 years, you always find out that like they had crashed and burned on 1 or 2 or 3 other things before that, or this other thing was named something else, or they were like hacking on stuff in high school and had created something that had gotten, it's always like the results of 5 or 10 or 15 years. It's never that 1 year or 2 years. So a lot of our unrealistic expectations comes around like from that. And I think if you can really manage your expectations, set stretch goals and work your ass off to hit them, but also you got to celebrate the small things. Like for us, our first goal that we set was we just wanted 100 transactions a week. That was it. Now we do thousands and thousands a day, but we wanted 100 a week, and we worked our ass off for a whole year. And I think the end of that first year, we hit like 58. And that was like a big punch in the stomach. But when we finally got to 100, we celebrated it. And while that meant pennies in revenue, it really wasn't anything material in terms of a real business. To me, it did indicate that I knew if we could get to 100, I knew we could get to 1,000. And I knew if we could get to 1,000, we can get to 10,000. And I knew if we get to 10,000, we get to 100. And so it's like you have to have a big audacious goal, but you also have to think and act very, very small and celebrate those little small wins, because you know that they will eventually compound and lead to big numbers.
Thank you so much, Bryan, for sharing your stories and insights with us today. To learn more about or connect with Bryan, you can find him on LinkedIn, Twitter, or Instagram, or visit his website at yourgreenpal.com. You can also download my free ebook about passion marketing and learn how you can become a top priority of your ideal customers at passionmarketing.com. Thank you so much for joining me for today's episode, and I wish you success in building your technology business. Do you want to become a better digital monetizer? To receive great monetization stories and secrets, please go to monetizationnation.com and join free. And if you liked today's episode, please subscribe to the show and share it.